Hey, welcome back to Laser Engraving 911 and Happy New Year. So on this episode, we are going to do something special. We're going to review our first ever diode laser. Now, I get a lot of requests every month from different vendors wanting me to review their diode lasers, and I usually take a pass. But when xTool reached out to me to review the S1, I looked into the specs and I was generally actually kind of curious to see what this machine could do. So if that sounds like something you want to get into, then buckle up. Get your pen and paper out because we're about to get into the S1 by xTool on Laser Engraving 911. I wanted to let you know that we're going to be doing kind of a rating system as we cover all the different sections that I reviewed on the S1. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to include my final rating and final thoughts, so make sure you stick around for that. Let's get on to the unboxing. All right, so let's talk about my experience unboxing the S1. So xTool sent me the S1 Rotary package. And that package includes all the things that you're going to need if you want to use the S1 for your new laser engraving startup business. And the reason I say that is because it comes with some very important key components that you're not going to get by just buying the unit itself. So it comes with a riser base, which is extremely important if you want to engrave anything that's higher than 3 inches and you want to do tumblers. You need that riser base. It comes with the honeycomb cut bed, which is great for cutting and not getting flash marks on the underside of whatever you're cutting. And it comes with, of course, the rotary tool, which is going to be necessary for doing all your cups and tumblers. And a really nice air assist for making sure you get clean engravings and clean cuts. So overall, the unboxing experience was a breeze. Definitely going to rate the whole packaging and unboxing a 10 out of 10. All right, let's talk about assembly and installation. So the unit itself is actually not that heavy. You could definitely lift it out of the box by yourself and set it on your workbench, but having an extra person to help you is probably for sure going to be a little bit easier, but it's definitely a one-person job if you want to do that. So setup was really straightforward. You've got a couple shipping brackets that you need to remove. There's a hose adapter that you need to hook up in the back so you can vent outside. It does have an internal exhaust fan, which worked pretty well. We ended up hooking the exhaust hose up to our fume extractor because we didn't want to vent outside, and we have a fume extractor. That's always an option. And then, of course, there's installing the laser module, which I want to kind of talk about a little bit because I think it's pretty cool. So the laser module is completely, standalone, and it can be upgraded or downgraded. This one came with a 40-watt unit, but it just kind of magnetically just hooks onto the gantry, or you can take it off, and that makes cleaning and maintenance like really easy. And I thought that was a really cool feature that xTool added, was the removable laser module. And on the software front, that was actually really easy to install without any hiccups. I'm using a Windows machine, and it installed right away. I've reviewed other units before, and I've had to do multiple disconnects and reconnects for the software trying to find the machine, but I did not have that problem installing the XCS software for the S1. So overall, I'm going to give the assembly and installation of the S1 a 9 out of 10. So the software was very stable for me. It never crashed once, and I really think that even though you can totally run the S1 using Lightburn, for anyone just getting into the laser engraving, laser cutting world, I think the XCS software is totally usable, user-friendly, and should be used or at least given a shot right off the bat. I didn't have any issues with it, and I found it did a really good job telling the laser exactly what I wanted it to do. And that's really what's important. All right, so overall, I'll give the XCS software an 8 out of 10. So let's talk about engraving and cutting quality. So this is honestly my first time working with a laser that is less than 60 watts. I kind of had to rethink all my settings. Luckily enough, after a little bit of searching, I found that on Samcraft's site, he's got a really nice file that you can download that is made for the XCS software to help you dial in your settings on new material. So I was able to jump over to his site, buy that file, and I found it extremely helpful. So if you want that file, I'll list it in the description below, and also check out Samcraft's YouTube page. He's one of my favorite guys out there, and he does some great stuff. So in terms of engraving and cutting quality, I found that due to the small spot size of this nice diode laser, the engraving quality was on par with some of my higher end industrial lasers that I have here in the shop. The cutting quality was crisp and clean, and I think a lot of it had to do with a standout feature that I think is really cool that ships with this unit, which is their Intelligent Air Assist unit. So this unit is not your normal air assist pump that's just blowing a set PSI at all of your jobs. It's actually plugged into the laser, and the laser tells it when it's cutting, and it also tells it when it's engraving. So when it's engraving, it lowers the amount of air coming out just enough to keep the particulates away from the lens. But when it's cutting, it knows that you're cutting and it boosts up the air output. So you get nice, crisp, clean cuts with not a lot of flame up. And basically I didn't see really much sooting at all. So the air assist is definitely a plus. I'm going to rate the overall engraving and cutting on the S1 a 9 out of 10. All right, so now I want to talk about one of my favorite features of the S1, and that is the 2-point position system or multi-point position system, saving you hours and hours of lining up or doing red laser tracing around odd-shaped objects so you can land your engraving perfectly on the object. The xTool has brought a feature where all you have to do is tell it 2 points on the surface of the object just by hand moving the gantry around, lock in those 2 points, and it will represent on the screen your engravable area to the best of its ability, and it's actually really accurate. And if you're wondering if it just does rectangles or squares, it does not. They've actually added multi-point positioning systems. So if you've got something like this little tree slice cookie, you can mark all the points, as many as you want around there, and then go ahead and land your engraving in the software right here, and that's exactly where your engraving will land. I have to give it up to xTool for this feature. I think it's a huge benefit, a huge time saver, and very innovative. And epilogue, just by chance, if you're watching this, you need to get this. All right, so for my favorite feature, I'm not even sure if I can give it a rating, but it's definitely a 10 plus out of 10. It's a hot dog out of 10. Yeah, it's just great. I could do it all day long. I wish I had it years ago. You don't even need a camera. You don't even need a camera. Camera's stupid at this point. The positioning system is where it's at. I love it. If you're gonna buy the S1, just get it for the positioning system. That's worth every penny. All right, I'm done. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the speed of the S1. The S1 is definitely not the fastest laser engraving machine. And I've kind of noticed in some other reviews that I've watched that this kind of part of the machine is kind of glossed over. And it's really important that you understand the speed of machines, as I've talked about in my other videos, to understand its capabilities. So if you're going to integrate the S1 into your kind of existing business as just an add-on tool, or you have a small crafting business or just kind of a hobby shop, then these speeds might be acceptable to you. However, if you're planning on getting the S1 for a full-time laser engraving business, time efficiency is crucial. So we've put together a montage of actual run times on all these different little projects that we did so you could get a better understanding of how long various projects take. So the S1, while it is an excellent entry-level tool, I would suggest that if your intention is to do high volume engraving right off the bat, that it may not be the right tool for you. And for xTool, I hope that in the future they start to integrate hybrid stepper motors into some of these units, because they really are packed with so many great features. I feel like if the speed was boosted, it would just make the S1 that much more impressive. So overall, I'll give the S1 speed a rating of 5 out of 10. All right, so let's talk about the rotary attachment or rotary engraving with the S1. The rotary attachment is the RA2. Since this is the S1 rotary kit, it comes with a rotary attachment that can be configured in the classic kind of hot dog roller style, or you can actually retool it and it comes with a chuck, so you can use it either way that's best suited for your rotary engraving needs. I opted to go with the chuck configuration, and I was able to actually get really nice engravings on these tumblers from Johnson Plastic Plus. I'll list a link in the description below on these awesome tumblers. They're really nice. They just came out with all these great colors, but the S1 with the chuck rotary handled these cups really nice. I was even able to do this dupe Stanley cup from Johnson Plastic Plus by removing the 2 screws here, taking off the handle, and actually chuck this big 40-ounce Stanley dupe up, and it did really well with it. I was actually really impressed. One pro tip that we kind of came up with here was with a lot of these desktop lasers, including the S1, there's no really locked position to lock in your rotary tool. So what we did was we just lasered on the crumb tray where the rotary sits the exact rectangle of the shape of the rotary. That way we knew right where to put the rotary every single time to avoid any misalignment of the rotary, and that just made setup even easier. The software worked really well with the rotary. Very easy to just input the diameter and then drop your logo into your work area and laser away. So for the rotary, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. All right, so here's my final thoughts on the S1. Is this the right laser for you to get for your new laser engraving business adventure or your additional tool that you're going to add to your existing crafting business? I can't actually answer that directly for you, but what I can do is I can draw on my 10 years experience as a professional laser engraver and give you some points to think about. So I think that the S1 offers an incredible value, mainly for its compactness of size. It doesn't take up too much space. Its software is super easy to use. The 2-point positioning system, which I think is incredible, the intelligent air auto assist, and a lot of the other just friendly features of the S1 for anyone looking to get into laser engraving. I think this is a really nice choice. The S1 is a great choice if you're a hobbyist, a crafter looking to expand your capabilities, or an existing business where you're looking to add some laser engraving and laser cutting abilities to that business. However, for those eyeing extremely high volume, high demand laser engraving business applications, the S1 may not be a great fit for you. And looking forward here in 2024, I'm really excited to see what xTool will be innovating on next. Hey, so that about wraps it up for this episode of Laser Engraving 911. If you got value from this review of the S1, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment below on your overall thoughts of anything we talked about on the S1. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And if you haven't subscribed already, smash that subscribe button to let YouTube know that this content is awesome, and they'll spread it all over the place. Your support and your comments help this channel grow, and it means a lot to me. So thank you for everybody who's also subscribed. You guys mean the world to me, and you help me keep going. I've got some really exciting videos coming up in 2024, so make sure you get notified of all my new videos. And after watching this video, if you feel like the S1 is the right tool for your shop, then make sure you use my link below. That's an affiliate link that xTool gave me, and whenever you use that link, it doesn't cost you anything, and it helps support my channel, and I get a small kickback from xTool for sending you over to their site. And as always, I've listed links to everything we talked about in the video, including my special 15% off code for Johnson Plastic Plus, so you can scoop up some of those nice Stanley dupes and 20-ounce tumblers that you saw us engraving in the video. So until next time, I'll see you around on Laser Engraving 911.